very brief view of what the data set is about. Hold on. So we have actually a very comprehensive data set where we have a column full of different countries, and then columns that are full of different KPIs, such as number of cases per millions, deaths, and we even have statistics about vaccination rates, right? People vaccinated, people fully vaccinated, positivity rate. And then at the very right, we have more country-specific KPIs, such as population, median age, the population of senior citizens and above, extreme poverty, GDP, etc., etc. So the reason why we have all of these different statistics is we want to be able to understand down the line if any of these play a factor in the effect of COVID, right? So if there are more if there's a higher population, does that mean that COVID rate is higher as well? If there's higher poverty rate, for example, does that also tend to skew towards more COVID cases as well? So those are questions that we will be answering throughout the different exercises. Okay. So now, can I know if anyone has not loaded the data yet? You should see the loading icon should have stopped, and you should now see it here under the draft data. Okay, not yet. Let's give it a few minutes. No worries. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hadi Pernoto, can I ask if it has loaded from your end as well? Mm. Oh, right. Okay. So if you, Mr. Hadi Pernoto, if you change your screen by any chance, you can just click on this icon. It's called the draft data, and you should be able to see your data over here. Does that work for you? If not, you may need to repeat the step by uploading again from this second tile over here. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So now, I think most of everyone has uploaded successfully the data set. Then go ahead and just click on the uploaded data here at the bottom right. And you should know it's correct if it has an expiration of 7 days. Just access it over here. Okay. And you will be greeted with this prompt telling you that we're only working with a sample of your data just because we're working with a very large amount of rows. So just click on OK. And once it has loaded for you in this data model, this is where we're actually able to create transformations and view our data before we save it as a model. So as I shown earlier in Excel, we have these same columns over here from country or location, and all the different KPIs, such as all these different vaccination cases, all the way to the right. Now, in this view, we are actually able to know the data quality of our data set by looking at any data quality issues over here. So if you expand this arrow button under model requirements, then you'll actually be able to observe if there are any issues that have been noted by SAC. And in particular, we actually have some issues in this data set, right? And it will tell us that there are certain columns that are containing data quality issues. In this case, it is the date column, right? And if you pay our attention, the reason why we are facing these data quality issues is because if you can see, the first two rows under date are actually not following the same format. And also there are typos. So you can see over here, the first, the row number 2 for Afghanistan is saying Feb 24, 2020, when it should probably be following a numeric format as the following rows from row number 4 and below. And it's the same case with row number 3, where it's showing Feb 25, 2020. So in order to fix this, what we want to be able to do is to create a transformation. Now, it's not as simple as Excel, where you can simply click on the cell and edit this text. So within SAC, because we are taking a look at all of these data as aggregates, then in order to change this, we need to create a transformation. So the first thing I want you guys to do is to select this row 2 under date, the Feb 24 icon, right? And then to the right, to its immediate right, you will see this transformation icon where you can click create a transform. And the transformation that we will be selecting is a replace function. So we are going to replace the text that is being shown on this particular cell. Okay. So once you click on replace, you will now be seeing at the very top of this formula bar, we now have this formula that is asking us to replace the cell under this date column matching any values of Feb 24 with a specific value. So in order to enter that value, we have to click here in this value, in this gray value text. And this is where we actually type the new format that we want to follow. So in this case, we want to transform Feb 24 to 2020 02 24. Right? And once you click on that, or once you type that, you can just press enter on your keyboard to save the results. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on enter. So you'll see this confirmation at the bottom that you have replaced this Feb 24 2020 with 2020 02 24. So once you are able to do that, we just repeat the same step with Feb 25, 2020 as well. So again, I'll click on the Feb 25, 2020, click on create a transform, and click on replace. Okay, so I'll just do the same thing. So once we type in 2020-02-25, we click on enter. And now we have a uniform format under the date column. And we will know that we have done the right step if we can no longer observe any data quality issues. So you'll see it at the right-hand side that there are no more data quality issues detected within this exercise. So if you're done with replacing these two, just please type in chat that you are done. Just let me know to give me an indication, or if you're facing any issues as well. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. So this step is actually a really great way for you to do one final look at your data set before you use it in order to create charts and reports. And the reason why is because if you have bad data, then it's going to be more likely that you will have bad charts, bad analysis as well. So it's very important that when you are running this workshop or when you are participating in the data science explorers competition, that you have very clean data. You don't want to have any typos. You don't want to have, any data quality issues that will haunt you in your analysis. So this step is actually very integral in order for you to have good outputs later on. So once you're done and you have removed all of those data quality issues, you can now click on create model at the very bottom right to save your new model. And then once again, it will ask you where you want to save your file. So just go back to the same folder. If it gives you this prompt, again, just click on create. And then we want to find the save your files here folder. Under Indonesia, under Venus University. And then again, just use the same format that we have been using today, which is 0207 2023. So once you have located the Indonesia Venus University folder, and you have also renamed this model to something you can easily identify and remember, then just click on OK at the bottom right. Right? And then you'll now see this table of a model creation happening at the back in the background. Sure. So the location is public. So under public, we go to the save your file here folder, and then Indonesia, Venus University. So here at the very top. Right. So awesome. I actually see a lot of your stories and models now. This is great. So we'll give you some time to save this model. I know it's a very large file, so therefore it could take some time again.
Sir, I have an error message.
Oh, okay. What is your error message?
The file with ID with random number and
Oh,
character
okay.
does not exist.
Hold on. Can you share your screen very quickly, please? Thank you. The file with ID. Okay, okay. So can you see what happens if you click create model? Can you just try again?
Still the same.
Oh, okay. 2024, 2025. No worries. So some people are facing the same error. Don't worry. I think I'm not sure if it could be due to the strain on the system because we have quite a lot of people, 30 people saving 10 megabyte files at the same time. Then no worries though. We actually do have a file that has been done already so that you can jump off from there during exercise 2. But thank you for letting us know.
Okay.
Yeah. So no worries.
Can I stop share? Or...
Yes, yes, please. Thank you. Okay. So once you have saved your file, hold on. If you are able to save your file, then that's great. If not, then no worries. We actually have another file that you can use later on for the analysis, right? So successfully saving your file again, you're now able to see it like this over here. But now what we want to do is to actually go back into our story. So in order to do that, you can use this magnifying lens at the top and just type again the name of the story you saved earlier. So it should be yeah, should be something like this. Right? If you remember your story name. Right? So there will probably be two options. One is the story and the second is the model that you just created on exercise 1. So we want you to go back into the story that you've saved. Okay, just click select. Okay. And once you are able to access the story again, you'll see that we're actually now finished with exercise 1. We have the last step of that was supposedly to save the file for those that have been able to do so. Okay, so now we actually are on time for the second exercise, which is on smart discovery. Before that, are there any questions on the data modeling process? Right. So usually we do get questions on the maximum file size of the data sets. So for your information, SAC can support up to 100 megabytes of Excel files, if I'm not mistaken. So normally most data sets of the students won't really reach that size, but in case you do have a very big data set, then that is the maximum size limit. Okay, so now I want you guys to go to the third page, or what we call smart discovery. Okay. And while we're in this tab, I want you to click on Edit at the top right. And this will now give us the full capability to actually change and edit all of these different and click on the different functionalities for the rest of the exercises. Okay. So what is Smart Discovery? Earlier I mentioned that SAP Analytics Cloud comes with some machine learning capabilities that help non-technical users be able to run analyses even without technical skills. And Smart Discovery is one of them. So by using Smart Discovery, you're actually able to use a machine learning algorithm to explore your data, to be able to uncover context, develop new relationships between columns, and actually be able to uncover insights. So it always gives you an overview of all your data, and it will give you a breakdown of key influencers and as well as a simulation panel. So how do we unlock Smart Discovery? So you should be able to find Smart Discovery in your toolbar here at the top. So depending again on how small or how big your screen is, it should show up under More and then Smart Discovery. So go ahead and just select on Smart Discovery. And once you click on Smart Discovery, you will now be brought to this new screen where it asks you to choose a data source. Okay, so here at the top right, I want to make sure that everyone is working on the same data source. So in order to change the data source, you can click on this pencil button to the right of it. Okay, and I want you to select this COVID-19 test data for Smart Discovery. So if you are unable to save your file from exercise 1, then you can actually use this file. Use this model, sorry, which is basically just a completed output of exercise 1 that I've prepared just in case we run into technical errors. Okay, so it's
Hello.
specifically meant, yes?
If we have our model,
Your
we
own?
can use. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes. So if you were able to save your own model, then you can click on select other model at the bottom of it. Hold on.
Excuse me, can you repeat for the
Smart
Smart Discovery?
Discovery.
Because I think I'm missing something in there.
No worries.
You.
So in order to view the option, you have to first make sure that you are on edit mode. Okay, and then you look for the more icon and then click on Smart Discovery. If there's no more, it should be under tools. So again, it depends on how small your screen is. So for example, if it's like this, right? So it should be under Smart Discovery more. Oh, okay. Right? So if you're able to unlock Smart Discovery, again, just select your own data set or the prefixed data set that we have already prepared. And then if you are selecting your own data set, you can browse for it yourself under select your own model, select other model. And again, it should be under public, save your file here, Indonesia, Venus University. and then just locate the model that you've saved, or you can just use the search bar. There are two options available for you.
Sorry, sir.
Of course.
I already create the model and I am directed to something like workspace. Can I
Yes,
share my screen and then what should I do?
no worries. So once you have created the model from exercise 1, we just need to go back to the story that you've saved
Back to
in
the
the
story.
pre-exercise. So you can use this search bar at the top to, if you remember the file name earlier, so it should be 0207-2023 underscore your name.
Okay.
Do you find it?
Yeah, there are two files. The one with icon like whiteboards and the one with
Yes.
the cube icon.
Yeah.
Which one should I choose?
The whiteboard.
Okay.
So the whiteboard icon represents our stories. So these are the
Okay.
reports and dashboards. And then the cube icons on SAC, these are the data models. So that's what we just saved in exercise 1.
Okay.
So
And
just
then
go,
okay,
just
done.
click on the storyboard. And then once you click on the storyboard, you will be back to your original file, right? That you've saved.
Okay.
And then just make sure that you are on edit mode at the top right. And then you look for Smart Discovery under the More tab and then Smart Discovery over here.
Okay, found it. Thank you.
Perfect, no worries. And then now that you're here, you just have to select your data model by clicking on this pencil icon and then looking for your data set. So by default, if you want to use the data model that is available already, you can just click on COVID-19 test data for Smart Discovery, or you can click on select other model and look for the model that you've saved from exercise 1. So again, you can just type over here. So once you've selected your own data set, just click on OK. And the next step that we want to do is we are now going to be running the attributes or selecting the attributes that we want our Smart Discovery to be about. So what does this mean? So in our data set, as you can see, if you click on target, we have a lot of different KPIs that we can run our analysis on. So for example, we have our total COVID cases, we have vaccinations, we have deaths and recoveries. So these are all available attributes that I can use in order to run my analysis upon. So in this first exercise, what I want you to run is on, let's say, positivity rate. So it's positive rate, sorry. Right? Once you click on positive rate, what we're asking the system to do is to analyze my entire data with respect to the positivity rate. Okay, and then second is we now want to select on an entity. So the entity is how do we want to segment our data? And in this case, you want to segment it by location or country. So we want to observe what is the positivity rate in Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, etc., etc. Right, so just click on location. Additionally, if you want, we don't have to do this for this exercise, but we can also add filters if necessary. But once we have selected positivity rate and location, we can now click on run here at the bottom right. So go ahead and run the smart discovery once you've selected those parameters, and it will take some time. So we can actually use this as a bathroom break as well while the data is loading, right? So once you've selected positive rate and location, just click on run. And it will be loading for some time. Normally, this would take around maybe 2 minutes or more. So we can leave the browser loading for now, and we can actually take maybe a 10-minute break first in order to make sure everyone, if you want to get some coffee, get some water, or use the bathroom, we can use this for a while, and then we can reconvene at 10:30 a.m. Indonesia time, right? Oh, okay. So, Sir Brilly, no worries if you have some errors. Unfortunately, if for a lot of people using the smart discovery feature at the same time, normally these errors show up, but no problem. We have actually preloaded some smart discovery results as well in the same story. So you can refer to that for exercise 2 later on. Right? Thank you.
Excuse me, I got the result is different. It's total positive rate for location is 0.09, and in your presentation is 3,000 something.
Sorry, is it the same as my screen where you're seeing the positivity rate is like
Yeah,
this?
but my positive in my screen, in my positive rate is 0.09.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Can I see? Do you mind sharing your screen very quickly?
Okay, I share
Thank
my
you.
screen. Okay.
Elaine, I think there is in your tab 2. You click it overview 1, and there is some overview.
Oh, hold on. Positivity rate,
Is there
0.09.
0.09?
Okay. By any chance, which data model did you use for this analysis? Is it your own data model? Or is
Oh
it
yeah,
the...
I got one error too in my screen.
okay.
Due to unanticipated issues, the discovery result will not contain all the expected pages.
Okay. So, hold on. Can you please click on the total positive rate, the 0.09 box?
Yeah. Okay.
And then click on designer at the top right, just beside controls. Sorry, at the top right of the screen.
Click top of screen designer.
At the very right. Very right. No.
Yeah.
Very right. Beside designer, controls, edit, and view at the top right.
Top right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I can show you. No worries. Let me. Can you stop sharing, please, for a while, just to. Okay, thank you. So, if you click on here, designer mode, yeah. Can you let me know what the data source you used is?
Okay. Yeah. So there
No
is.
worries.
Can I share screen?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, designer.
Use this data set.
Hold on. Oh, okay. Positivity rate. Okay. And there's location. Okay. No worries. No worries. So, I think again, it is due to the bandwidth of people using Smart Discovery at the same time.
So Aline, if I check,
Yes,
so
sir.
if I use my own model, right? So the positive rate will be 3,000, something.
3,000, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you use the standard model that you have provided, yeah, the positive rate will be 0.09.
09.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can I share my screen? Can you stop sharing, please? Thank you. Yeah. So there may be some discrepancies between the results of our own smart discovery. So if you used your own smart discovery, you will see the positivity rate is 3,700. But if you use the one that was available, you would receive a 0.09, which is 9% positivity rate. So the reason why it's showing up as 3,000 is it's actually creating a sum of all the positivity rates instead of an average. So no worries. In this analysis, we can just take it as is. So basically, instead of an average positivity rate, it's actually summing all of the positivity rates, right? So for Mexico, for the year 2020 to 2021, the sum of the daily positivity rate is 157. So unfortunately, that isn't really how we analyze positivity rate. But for now, maybe let's just take it as is. If not, then we can still just use the pre-built overview just to get us to understand the context a bit more later on. Yeah. So yeah, I think let's just resume the bio break first, just to make sure everyone has had time to again get some water or go to the restroom if you need to. Let's have around 8 minutes if that's fine. And then we can resume once this is finished, the timer is finished, okay? Okay, good morning again, everyone. So hopefully you're able to make the most out of that break and be more refreshed to continue with the rest of our exercises. So I understand that for some of you, some of the people who have used their own data model from exercise one, you may be getting quite a large result for your positivity rate from the smart discovery. So don't worry, this is not through any fault of your own. So there was actually a step that I failed to have mentioned where instead of making this data a sum, we should have made it an average as part of the data modeling exercise. Now, we'll just make sure to take note of that and be able to adjust so that in the future sessions, this will actually show up as a more believable number. But regardless, what we can do is for the purpose of um, exercise two and being able to understand the data in a more true to life fashion, then maybe we can, instead of using the results of the smart discovery, just use the pre-built results that should show up as part of your data, as part of your story. So for exercise two, let's just pay attention to the overview tab that has no number one in it, right? So if you click on this overview tab, you should see the positivity rate is 9% as compared to the very bloated 3,700 that we've seen earlier. Okay, is everyone able to see this? Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Right, so let's just keep to this result for the sake of exercise 2, and then we'll just modify the exercise manual to make sure that everyone is able to get to the same results later on down the line. So the output of Smart Discovery is basically a minimum of 3 screens, right? 3 tabs. So you have our overview tab, which gives us a summary of our data. It gives us the positivity rate as a total, positivity rate by location, and positivity rate over time over the years. The second tab is a key influencer tab where we're able to get an idea of how is positivity rate influenced by the different columns in our dataset. And third is a simulation tab where we can actually see what will happen to positivity rate if I increase or decrease certain parameters within my data. So let's pay attention and let's go by each of these tabs one by one to help us understand a little bit further. Okay, so first thing that I want you to pay attention to is the positivity rate over time here at the bottom left. So as you can see, SAC actually comes with some predictive analytics, as I mentioned earlier today. We have business intelligence, we have predictive analytics, and we have planning. So when it comes to predictive analytics, we are actually able to forecast what the positivity rate will look like throughout time based on historical trends and historical patterns. So the last point of data that we have in our data set is actually sometime in April of 2021. So everything after that, we don't have any data in our data set. So we can see that even though we don't have any data, SAC is actually able to extrapolate what could positivity rate be like in the next few months based on historical trends. So as you can see here, from May 1st, we have an interval of 10% to 13%. So SAC is not only able to give you a forecast, but it's also able to give you a confidence interval as well that will tell you that positivity rate is bound to fall between these two values, right? So this is actually being ran by an internal algorithm that we have within SAP. We have our own predictive forecasting algorithm. If we click on this forecast word in green, we can actually see a forecast quality score. And in this case, we see that the score is 5 out of 5, meaning that it is a very good result for a predictive forecast. Now, normally, in order to get a very good score, we would recommend the students and the instructors to use a data set that has a large amount of data, meaning the more rows, the better, and also the more time periods, the better. So if you have only 1 year's worth of data, it's very difficult to predict 1 year ahead of time, right? But in this case, since we have around 2 years of data, we can predict around May, June, July, we can predict 3 months ahead of time based on this data set. So a good rule of thumb is for every 6 periods of time, then we can predict 1 month ahead. So if we have 6 months, we can predict up to the 7th month. We can predict 1 month ahead. If we have 1 year worth of data, we can predict 2 months ahead, etc., etc. So this predictive forecast, as I mentioned earlier, is currently using our own automatic forecast algorithm, proprietary to SAP. But if you click on this time series forecast and click on these three dots, we actually have the option to modify the forecast and select some more other statistical algorithms. So for example, we can use a linear regression, or we can use triple exponential smoothing as well. So there are specific use cases for each of these types of regression analysis. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a statistician. So I would recommend looking up when is it best to use a linear regression, when is it best to use a triple exponential smoothing. But again, we have these options available. So for example, if I click on linear regression, you'll see that this result, this forecast bar, will automatically change as well, right? So it's up to the students or up to the instructors to advise the best type of forecast based on the analysis that is required from them. Okay, the second thing I want you to pay attention to is this positivity rate by location on the bottom right. So here we are looking at the average positivity rate of all these different countries. And it is actually ranked from highest to lowest. We see the countries of Mexico and Oman have the highest average positivity rate with over 33%. And it goes all the way down to Dominican Republic with 20%. So what's interesting to note is that we actually have some text here at the bottom that was automatically generated by the Smart Discovery. And this is called our Smart Insight. What a Smart Insight does is it picks up what is the top insight or the top driving force behind this particular chart. So in this case, it's telling us that Oman, the country of Oman, had the highest positivity rate with a total of 36% in July 30, right? So if we click on this View More button, we can actually get more in-depth information or more in-depth view into the positivity rate of Oman, right? So here, it's giving us a view of the daily change in positivity rate. So we can see in July of 23rd to 30th is when it reached its highest peak of positivity rate based on the data set. So we see the highest one is in July 26 and also in July 30 with a positivity rate of 36%. We can even change these different views. Maybe instead of a daily view, we can look at it by month, right? Or we can also take a look at it by quarter. Okay. So additionally, we can actually run our Smart Insights on any particular data point that we have in this chart. So in this case, maybe I want to run my Smart Insight on Dominican Republic. So I can easily just right click on any of these countries and click on Smart Insights. And again, similar to what we've had for Oman, we can see the change per day, per month, per quarter for each of these different positivity rates. Oh, okay. So Smart Insights is disabled for Miss Ernawati. Is anyone also facing the same issue? Okay, thank you. So thank you for letting us know. I think it again has to deal with the authorization rights. Let us just fix it after this call to make sure that you will be able to actually run Smart Insights later on. Apologies for that inconvenience. Yeah. So most of these issues that you're facing are due to some authorization errors with the users that we've provided for you. We'll just make sure to fix it so that when you run these enablement sessions, you will have the full rights and the full access. So the next tab that is automatically generated is the key influencers tab. So we can go ahead and select it. So under the key influencers tab, this is where we're actually able to get a breakdown of what influences positivity rate by location. So here we can see which of the columns are affecting the positivity rate and the strength of the influence as well. So it could be a weak, a medium, or a strong influence depending on the data set. So in this case, what we can see as elements that affect positivity rate are the following. So obviously, new cases. The more cases there are, the more likely it is, of course, to have a higher positivity rate, and as well as the testing, right? So the more we roll out testing in a country, then it's also more likely for you to have a positivity rate. But the purpose of that, again, is to make sure that people who are positive are able to quarantine as immediately as possible. Now, there are also other parameters that actually affect positivity rate, as we can see here, such as the age of the population. So if there are more people in the country who are 70 years older or older, then it is more likely for a higher positivity rate, as seen here. And also, we can also observe that extreme poverty, the number of people who are living under extreme poverty rate also affects the positivity rate as well, right? So these are all different KPIs that, based on our data set, is telling us that these are what's affecting the positivity rate. The third tab is our simulation panel, where we can see, based on the current expectation and the current status of our influencers, how do we expect positivity rate to perform? So we can actually play around with these different values over here. And what this will do is, by changing these will actually impact my positivity rate. So for example, if I increase, let's say, the number of cases and click on simulate, zoom out. Or if I increase the number of people under the poverty line and click on simulate, we can see that these values are actually increasing over time. Thank you, Erwin. Right? So I want you guys to play around with this simulation for a while and try to let me know what is the lowest positivity rate that you can come up with by moving around all of these different parameters. You're also able to see the impact of these KPIs as well. So if you increase or decrease a certain value, will that have a positive increase to positivity rate, or will that actually reduce positivity rate? So go ahead and play around with this simulation and try to see what is the lowest positivity rate that you can come up with. Right, so let me maybe you can type in chat. Just let me know if you're able to get a value that is probably like 2%, or if you can even get it down to 1 or 0%, by seeing what type of combination you can get. Oh wow, Sir Billy was able to bring it down to 0%. Oh. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing. So what you did was to uh, use tests. Yeah. So this simulation panel, simulation. Oh, so Miss Ernawati, so make sure that if you change the values, change these numbers, then you can click on simulate at the bottom each step to see if there are any changes. But there are some cases where the value might not change if it has to deal with the decimal amount. So it could be maybe 1.5% or 1.7%, right? So there are cases where you may not be able to view the value actually change that much. As I was mentioning, if you have your students as part of the Data Science Explorers competition, this simulation panel is actually a great way for you to challenge them on thinking of their solutions or recommendations. So for example, in this case, we're dealing with COVID-19 positivity. So if our problem statement is to make sure that we want to bring down this positivity rate as low as possible, then we can see that the influencers that bring down positivity rate the most are our testing. So by having more testing in a country, then we're actually able to bring down the positivity rate because we're able to detect even faster than usual those that have symptoms of COVID, and therefore prevent the spread from even going from blowing out of proportion. Okay, so are there any questions about the smart discovery exercise that we just did, about the insights that we were also able to get from the overview, the key influencers, and also the simulation panel, right? So this is really meant to get us a jump start into the analysis process. It's not meant to be the final product, but it will give us an understanding of what are the key influencers or key insights behind our data set. Therefore, once we start doing our analysis, we have a good idea of where to begin playing around with these values. Right? If there are none, then we can actually then proceed to our third exercise, which is on designer mode. Okay, so I want you everyone to now navigate to the third tab. The third exercise, which is designer mode. It should be the fourth tab over here, 3.0 designer mode. Okay, so in designer mode, what this allows us to do is to actually unlock the capabilities to be able to make changes into our charts and reports. So in order to be able to populate charts and reports, designer mode is used by being able to select the measures and dimensions that we will be using in order to populate these charts. And I'll talk about that in further later on. So what you will be learning is how to create charts, how to populate charts, and how to rank data from highest to lowest, and also how to duplicate these charts for later use. So we will be playing mostly with the SAC browser from here on out, and we actually have these exercise guides on the right that will help you follow along with the rest of the exercises for this particular step. Now, let me walk you through the first exercise, and then I'll give you the opportunity to work on the rest of the exercises by yourself. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you is to illustrate how we can view the trend of COVID-19 since 2020, right? And the first thing that I need to do is to click on this chart, this yellow chart, and then I will click on designer mode on the top right. So designer mode is segmented into two areas, the builder panel and the styling panel. We will be working mainly with the builder panel for this exercise. And the builder panel basically allows us to populate a chart with data. On the other hand, the styling mode, which has its own dedicated exercise in part 5, is more about the aesthetics. How can we change the font? How can we change the color scheme? So let's now first begin with the builder mode, right? First things first, we want to make sure that the data source we are using is the COVID-19 test data, which has already been pre-uploaded or is already pre-selected. And then what we want to do is select from a number of available chart types that we have on SAC. In this case, what we want to do is run a trend analysis, and therefore we can select on this line chart under trend. And then for our measures over here, we want to select the total confirmed cases, and under dimensions, we want to select date. So once we have those selections in place of total confirmed cases and date, we will have a singular data point here in our chart. So what we now want to do is to create some hierarchies. So we're now taking a look at it from a total perspective. In order to view the trend, we want to be able to click on this icon, which is the hierarchy button next to date. And we will select the level 4 hierarchy. So what this now will tells us is we're now able to identify and see how many people have had, how many confirmed cases have been recorded with COVID throughout this available data set until November of 2022, right? So we see that over 600 million people worldwide have been affected with COVID as of this date. And out of the data set that we have collected at the very least. As you know, a lot of countries have stopped recording their numbers recently, and therefore that's why the data set is only until this particular date, and it may not be as updated as it actually is anymore. Right? So that is actually the basics of building a chart on SAC, where we have to select a chart type, and then we have to populate it with a measure and a dimension. So let me spend this time to walk you through what is the difference between a measure and a dimension. So measure and dimension is a core concept with analytics tools such as SAC, such as Power BI and Tableau. So all data within a given data set has to be categorized as either a measure or a dimension. So when we talk about measures, as the name suggests, measure is something that is numeric, it's quantitative, and basically something that you can either measure or count. And measures are some things that can be aggregated via a sum, an average, a median formula. So in this particular use case, or in this particular exercise that we're dealing with, some of the measures that are included are the number of COVID cases, number of deaths, number of recoveries, positivity rate, number of vaccinations, etc., etc. Some other real world examples of measures include literacy, poverty rate, GDP, salary, cost of living, population, etc. As you can see, these are all quantifiable. They're all part of statistical reports. And basically, they're something that are collected over time as specific data points. On the other hand, we also have what we call our dimensions. And dimensions are more categorical or more qualitative in nature. So we use dimensions in order to categorize, to segment, in order to reveal the details behind our data. So for example, if we have total number of deaths, it doesn't really tell us that much information. But once we categorize total number of deaths by gender, by age range, by location, or by date, then we have a better understanding of the data. And then we are actually able to get, better insights behind that measure. So some examples of dimensions in real life scenarios could be gender, educational status, marital status, profession, and income bracket. So I want to end this explanation by giving a some sort of a tricky situation, right? So when we talk about age, our age can be a measure. When I talk about that, if you're 30 years old, if someone is 31 years old, you can count the number of ages of the number of years a person has been born. And you can also run calculations on it. You can do median age, you can do average age. But you can also transform age into a dimension by converting it into a bracket. What does that mean? So if I group, for example, people under 18 or 18 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 40, 65 years old and above. Now we're actually categorizing age by those certain buckets. And now I can actually run my analysis against those age brackets instead. So that's a very thin line. And I want you to kind of understand that to see the purpose of why you are assigning an age as a measure or a dimension, right? So the same can be done with your income bracket, right? Or if you have your income, your salary, it can be summed, but you can also do a salary bracket of $1,000 per month and below, $100,000 to $200,000 per year, etc., etc. So those are some examples to think of when talking about measures and dimensions. So now for the rest of these exercises, we're going to be asking you to actually be creating these charts by yourself and play around with these different features and functions of the designer and builder tab. So we want to be able to come up with an analysis of which countries have the highest COVID cases based on our data set. And then we will be repeating the same step for the recovered cases as well. So we'll give you around 10 to 15 minutes to work on these two exercises here at the bottom. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to just voice them out or type it in chat. All right. So feel free to now work on the rest of exercise number 3. Thank you, Sir Adfal, for being the first to answer. Yeah. Oh, sure. So, Mr. Hadi, in order to go to designer mode, you simply have to click on the designer mode icon or button at the very top right over here. Thank you, Sir Anang. So if you're done, we are still also waiting for the others to finish. Feel free to play around with designer mode also if you want to explore different charts, explore different chart types, etc., etc. Mr. Hadi, so if you are in the story, yeah. So from story, you click on designer mode at the top right. If you can't see it, then maybe you are in view mode. You simply need to open edit and then designer mode. Designer mode should be open over here. But in order for anything to show up, you have to click on a particular chart or artifact to display the options to create or modify these chart types. And if you guys are done, make sure to save. I recommend making it a habit of saving. So you can just use this file button again to press save, or you can just press Command Control S or Command S to save your work as often as possible. So maybe because this is quite a simple step, we can just reduce the time left to 3 minutes. Let's just wait for people to finish. Okay. Anyone still working on exercise number 3, designer mode? It should be a little straightforward. And just to get you familiar with the basics of creating your own charts, right? So now, if there are no questions, we now will proceed to exercise 4, which is the Data Explorer mode. All right, so we can view Data Explorer mode here at the top. And the difference between Data Explorer and Designer mode is it's a little bit more free-flowing in how you are able to create charts. So it's an alternative way for you if you prefer less structure, if you prefer to just view the results immediately and get the insights immediately as well, then the Data Explorer mode is a great way to view it. Right? So in order to view Data Explorer mode, you can click on Data right beside the story icon or button here at the top left of your screen. Okay, so by default, it should open your model, maybe any, it will open up a model based on your data set that you've selected. And that should be no worries. Right. Actually, I would recommend to change the data model to select the COVID-19 data set test data model, sorry. So you can just click on this drop down button right beside the model name and then click on COVID-19 test data. Okay. And once we click on that, we will now be able to see COVID-19 test data as the selected data model. And what we can do is we can play around with all of these measures. Again, we have these quantifiable KPIs, such as deaths, recovered cases, and total confirmed cases. So if I click on total confirmed cases, again, it's telling me that I have over 600 million cases worldwide, right? And if I click, and I can then introduce or categorize these by date in order for me to view the changes throughout time. So for example, if I click total confirmed cases by date, I'm now able to view just how fast the COVID cases have been rising throughout the past 2-3 years. Now, alternatively, or sorry, in addition to that, I can now actually add an additional view of different countries. So I have this entire list of countries over here that I can select. So for example, let me click on country region. Okay. And because it has too much data, it won't be able to load. But what we can do is we can actually search for Indonesia. So you can either look for it in the list, or you can also search for it at the top and click select. So once you do that, we now have an idea of how Indonesia has been performing in terms of mitigating COVID-19 cases throughout April or March of 2020 on all the way to January 1st, 2023. Yeah. So you should also be able to search, hold on. Let me just, unfortunately, you can't search the measures. Yeah, so you have to find them on the drop down. Right. So that's why I would recommend just to use the COVID-19 test data model, because it's less data to work with, and it's less likely that you'll be overwhelmed with the number of available measures. Right. So now, again, we have the list of the trend of how cases have been in Indonesia so far. So I'm not sure if this seems true to life to what you have experienced in your own country, where you observed, these huge spikes in October, sometime in August 2021 to October, and also sometime in after the New Year's in January to February of 2022. Right? So these are the most observable peaks that I can see based out of this time series chart over here. And ever since, it's been a steady, it's been at a steady rate of just this solid line over here, and no noticeable increases ever since then. Right? So now what I want you to do is we want to now introduce and add all the different Southeast Asian countries into this graph as well. So initially, we have Indonesia over here. We do have a list of all the available Southeast Asian countries here in the guide. Right? I can copy paste it for you. Okay, so what I want you to do is to search for these countries, search and select for all of these different countries to make sure that they also show up within this chart. So unfortunately, Brunei is not part of the data set, so that's why it's not included as part of this, this list. So we only have the 10 out of 11 ASEAN countries for this exercise. So as you can see, as I search and select for these countries, the time series chart at the bottom begins including them one by one as well. Sure. So Miss Ernawati, if your graph is showing a numeric point, you may need to select this. Make sure you're clicking on the button or the dimension column name of country and date at the very top. And just let me know if that works for you, hopefully. Oh, still not working, Mr. Mamati. Mr. Hadi, yes, we'll definitely share this video later on after the call. So if you are unable to view the data point or the time chart, Ms. Ernawati, then you can click on this auto-suggested. Can you try clicking on this area of your graph? So we do have the auto-suggested option. So if you've selected country, date, and total confirmed cases, by default, it should suggest for you a time series. So if you don't have these selected, then by default, you'll actually just see this numeric point, just numeric data. But once you introduce and select these column headers, then it will actually segment and categorize this further.
Mr. Alain, can
Yes.
you repeat it how to show the time series chart?
Sure.
Because I think I'm missing something here. I can only show the numeric point.
Number, right?
How to show the time series chart.
No
Thank you.
worries. So, Mr. Hadi, you're seeing just this number, right? 35 million, correct? Right? So if you're just seeing this, what I would recommend is, what I would advise is for you to click on date. So as you can see, the moment that I click on date, the graph will automatically be a time series analysis because SAC will identify that you're trying to run an analysis by date. So it does it automatically when you select the date tab, right? So when you select country, it will now show us a bar chart, right? So it's smart enough to understand whether you want to do a bar chart or a time series graph. Yeah, is it working?
Okay, thank you. It's working now.
Perfect. You're
I
welcome.
can solve the time series in my desktop.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, and then once you have that time series, you can just go ahead and select the 10 ASEAN countries. You can just search for them one by one over here. So now you will have this result once you have loaded all of the countries, and we'll be able to see how each of the ASEAN countries have had peaks over the past few years. And in fact, you can see from this graph, the most, I guess, the thing that stands out the most is how Vietnam was one of the best countries at the start when it came to preventing COVID-19. They were very great at maintaining their numbers very low. But then all of a sudden, after sometime in March of 2022, they suddenly surged all the way to 10 million cases total, eventually even exceeding Indonesia, right? But you can see that Indonesia is a close second, obviously due to the population of your country as well. And we can see the rest of the countries at the bottom. Okay. So one thing I want you to do is you can, if you deselect date, so it's currently selected to show the time series, but if you unselect it or deselect it, you will now be able to have a bar chart, and it's currently showing the results by alphabetical order with Burma all the way to Vietnam. So what we can do is to make it look a bit better, we can sort it by clicking on the more options, sort, and then total confirmed cases from highest to lowest. So this will give us a little bit more of structure, and it will be easier for us to view this result in this manner. So once we have this bar chart result and it's ranked from highest to lowest, we can now actually copy paste this into our file, into our exercise file, so that we can now use it for our analysis. So what I would recommend is to copy paste it into the Data Explorer mode tab. So again, I just click on copy to the Data Explorer mode story. So once we click on Data Explorer mode, it will show up in our tab. It may be hard for you to see, but it's actually over here, right? So we can move it around by clicking on the borders of this tile, and we can drag it to the very bottom. Over here. Right? So it should look like this one at the very top. Right? So any questions about the Data Explorer mode? Oh, okay. No worries, no worries. So if I have this data and I copy it into Data Explorer mode, it should show up by default to your lower left part of the screen. So in order to drag it, we have to make sure that we are in edit mode. Then I simply just click on it, click on the border, right? We have to wait for this icon to show up, this icon that allows me to move. And once I do that, I can drag it around to any part of my story. So I have to drag it to the very bottom and make sure it snaps first, right? So it has to snap to where I want to put it. And then I can resize it by clicking on this icon at the border.
Mr. Elaine.
Yes,
I have a little bit of a question.
sure.
Is it possible to export the underlying data? For example, for the Vietnam, I want to export the CSV for just the Vietnam cases to Excel, for example.
Mm.
Thank you.
No worries. So in terms of exporting, we can export it if it is made as a table, right? So for example, let me okay. So let me create one for you here. So we can't export charts, but we can export tables. So let me give an example. So if we have a table over here, and then we add the row as country and date. Okay, and then we filter to, let's say, Vietnam. Right. So now we'll be able to view, put it on the column. There you go. So now we are able to view Vietnam by date, by all of these different years and all the numbers. So what we can do is we can export it over here. So if I want to export this table, then I can click on export. And then you can export it as a CSV or a Excel file.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. So Mr. Rizky, no worries. Let me go back to the tab. Yeah. So in order to drag your file, your chart, sorry, you don't need to click on these three blue charts. You just have to click on the border of this chart, right? So you can see if I put my mouse by the border, it shows this icon that allows me to move my chart around. This yellow one over here. So once I have the icon unlocked, then I can then drag it to the bottom, right? And I have to make sure that it locks into place first, there, before I can release my mouse. You're welcome. Right? And then I can just resize it. Okay, so I know it may be hard to read at this point because of the background. Don't worry, it's actually part of our fifth exercise that we will have the opportunity to change the colors of this chart to make it easier to understand and to read. Okay, is anyone still having troubles with copying the table from Data Explorer to the story? If not, are we fine to proceed to styling, to the fifth exercise?
Len,
Yes,
how I can
to
resize the
resize.
chart? I forgot
No
about it.
worries. Yeah. So in order to resize the chart, there is only one area where we can do that, which is the
Oh,
bottom right area.
right
Yeah.
button, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So
Thank you very much.
no worries. Unfortunately, we can't do it from any other side, just the bottom right. Yeah. Okay. So now let's proceed to styling, I guess. And this is actually the last exercise that we have for today, where the purpose of this is we've taught you how to build charts. We've taught you how to, organize your data, populate these graphs. The last step is how are we able to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing so that as a viewer, it's easier to consume and it's easier to understand and be more legible as well. right? So in this particular exercise, the exercise will ask us to transform this graph that we had from exercise 4 into the graph that we will be using as a reference on the right with the yellow box, right? Which is much more legible, easier to read, and it's much more less clutter as well, because as you can see, in our original chart, we have very large values of data, and we even have decimal points, which doesn't make sense for a number of total confirmed cases, because we can't really have 0.5 COVID case, right? So as you can see here in the right hand side, we have no decimal points, and it's also broken down into thousands, which makes it much easier to consume and see as a viewer. Okay, so in order to do this, in order to unlock styling mode, I want you to scroll to the bottom of this exercise page, and then I want you to click on this chart at the bottom. So this chart is what we will be working with for the entire styling exercise. And once again, I want you to click on designer mode, which is at the top right. So anything that has to deal with making changes to a particular chart, you have to go to designer mode. Okay, and then once we have designer mode, we then have the option, we then have again the breakdown of builder, which we used earlier for the designer mode exercise. But in this particular area, we will be using the styling mode, which is the paintbrush icon. Okay, so as you can see, the styling mode, which has an orange border at the top, has a lot of different options that are available for us to edit the look and feel of our different graphs. So for example, I can change the background color, right? If I want to make sure that this bar chart is more legible, right? So we have to pick a high contrast color as to this. So we have a lot of different template colors available, or feel free to also customize your own color choices by using these options at the bottom, where you can choose a color and make the bar graph stand out a little bit more as well. Right. Right. So once you have a good background color that you've selected, you can just go back, right? And then the next thing that we can do is actually change the different font sizes, right? So we have a area here for the fonts where we can choose to select or edit the fonts as a whole, or we can select certain elements of the chart, such as the chart title, the axis label, etc., etc. So if you want to change it one at a time, you can do that, or you can also change it in totality, all at the same time. Okay. And then at the very bottom, we also do have, again, the ability to change the format of the numbers. So this is very important if you're playing with a lot of data, and therefore you want to make the message come across as simple as possible. So one thing that you can do is you can reduce decimal places. So normally it has 2 decimal places by default, or what I would recommend is to just make it 0 decimal places if there's no need. And we can also scale or format, scale the number formatting to make it more legible. So for example, we can scale it to thousands, millions, etc., etc. But the point is to make sure that it's easy to understand as a viewer. Right? So I'll give you the rest of the time, around maybe 9 minutes, to play around with styling mode. Feel free to change, again, the fonts, the colors of the backgrounds. And maybe once you're done, you can post a screenshot of your finished styling mode output into the Zoom chat. So we'll give you just around maybe 9 to 10 minutes to play around with the styling portion. Thank you for sharing some of your results. It's a really nice. You went all out on that designing, Mr. Abram. Mm. Thank you, Sir Billy. Mm. Okay. So just wondering, has everyone been able to follow the styling panel exercise? Did you have any trouble creating some of those designs? Or was it relatively easy and simple to follow? Hopefully, hopefully the latter. Yeah. So with that said, that actually concludes the last portion of our exercise. Thank you, Sir Billy. So let me just give a very quick, I guess, summary again of everything that we've tackled for today, right? We had 5 exercises in total. The first one revolved around data modeling, where we uploaded data, an Excel file, to SAC, and we corrected some of the data quality issues to make sure that for our analysis, it was safe to use, it was easy to use, and we would not run into any problem areas. The second exercise is we then used the same data set and ran a smart discovery. Now, I understand that, again, this didn't really work out well for everyone, so I apologize. We'll take your feedback and make sure to edit it so that it works better in the future sessions. But I hope, regardless, you were able to understand and appreciate the value of smart discovery, where you didn't really even have to build anything because SAC built 3 pages automatically for you. So we had the overview page. So we had the overview page, right, where we had this list, this time series analysis, this smart insight list as well. We also had our key influencers, where we viewed how a certain variable, such as positivity rate, is influenced by other variables within our data set. And then finally, we also had our simulation panel, where we could try and see how low can we bring our positivity rate or how high can we bring our positivity rate based on a variety of different factors. So after we played with Smart Discovery, we then moved on to designer mode, where we had grasped the building blocks of how to build a chart. And we created a variety of different charts as well, from a time series and a bar chart. And we also learned the concept of measures and dimensions. And then we went on to play around with the data explorer mode. So here is where, again, we just created charts from the fly. It's a simple way for us to build charts. And as I click on any of these columns, the chart type automatically adjusts accordingly. And finally, we concluded with the styling portion, where we used some of the design elements available on SAC to actually build some high contrast, really good looking charts, some more simple looking charts as well, to make sure that we get the point across much faster to the audience instead of having to understand what this is all about. So with that said, that actually concludes the workshop. And we do want to ask everyone to be able to fill out the enablement survey. So I believe Elan has shared it with everyone on the chat as well. So we ask for your a few minutes of your time just to give feedback to help us improve the experiences, the experience that we can provide via this workshop. Yeah. And Ilan, did I forget anything else as well? Or let's just give them time to fill this out first.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Alain.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for yeah, for facilitating this enablement session. I think yeah, the session was running quite well. Yeah, I think we had an issue at the beginning of the session in terms of saving,
The rights, yeah, yeah.
yeah, saving the file. But I think it was resolved, yeah, quickly. So yeah, and I now I really need your support, yeah, to complete the survey. The link to the survey is provided, as you can see on the slide. So please complete the survey. And yeah, basically we would like to ask for your feedback, yeah, to help us improve the organization of this enablement session in the future. So your feedback is very important to us. So please help us complete this evaluation form. So maybe I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes, yeah, to complete the form. And after that, we can close and wrap up this enablement session. Yeah.
Maybe we can take a photo, sir.
Of course,
Yes,
yes.
sure. Yeah, sure. I think after this, yeah, after completing the survey, we will have a, we will be wrapping up, yeah, the entire session, and then we will have a group photo session. So please complete the survey, Bapak, Ibu-ibu. So I already received responses, yeah, from 15 participants. So to those of you who have not completed the evaluation form, yeah, I really appreciate your support, yeah, to complete it. Yeah, so I'll give you 1 more minute, yeah, to complete the form. So far I have received 15 participants completing the survey. So I'm still waiting for the other participants, yeah, to complete the survey. And yeah, we are going to provide the e-certificate of participation to all participants who have completed the survey. Okay, so I have received 23 participants completing the survey. Thank you for those who have filled out the survey. Okay, Alain, can you you already unscreen your slides, yeah? No worries, I can.
Yeah. What do you need, Dylan? I can share. Sorry. This is the what's next.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah. So Bapak Ibu, I think I believe Mas Abram and Mbak Ajeng have shared with you that there will be 5 to 10 participants will be the facilitators for the same enablement session after this for at least 200 students. Yeah. So I think that's the next thing to do by these facilitators. And Mas Abram and Mbak Ajeng, please send me the list of the facilitators who will be facilitating the post-enablement session, because I'll be giving separate SAC accounts, yeah, for these facilitators. And also we are really hoping that each of you can encourage your students, yeah, to partake in the ASEAN DSE competition that will open, yeah, this Thursday. So the registration will open this Thursday. So again, yeah, please promote, yeah, please help us promote and communicate this competition, yeah, to your students. And we look forward to their participation in this program. And we are also encouraging each of you to to explore SAC further by enrolling for SAC course through the platform that is available on the slide. Well, actually, that's the general website. I have made a little edit here on the link. I'll be sharing with Mas Abram and Mbak Ajeng later. So there is the revision on the link, yeah, to SSC course, and also we have our old manual, yeah, SAC manual that I believe you can still use, yeah, to explore, yeah, SAC further. So I think that's the next things, yeah, that should be done, yeah, in order for you to be more familiar with SAC, and also to get, yeah, participants partake in this competition. Okay, so I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me through my email address, and and hopefully today's session is an eye opener for all of you. And yeah, you are able to use SAC for your own data analytics. Thank you very much. Yeah, back to Abram and Bajan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Elaine, Mr. Erwin, and Mr. Ginlan for today enablement session. Before we end the session, we would like to take the group photo. Can we take group photo? Bapak Ibu, lecturers, can you turn on your camera so we can have group photo session with CNDSA team?
Okay, everyone. We will take a photo. We have 2 pages. Okay, that's one. Okay, thank you. That's 2. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abram. And thank you for all the lecturer for participating